Hi, I am Tavish Carduff, and this is
Quan, Tracy, Cherry.
We are here for our raw material, where you can find your center wherever you are. This week is Ignorance Week, and what's the question for Ignorance Week?
Take a deep breath and feel the tension in your body. Did you even know that tension was there in that part of your body?
No, right at the back of the neck. I had no idea.
Yeah.
Take a breath with that, and we'll be back in just a minute. Hi, I'm Tavish, this is Quan, and we are back to talk about Ignorance Week. What do we have to say?
Well, first of all, it's the end of the first 4 weeks where we're deconstructing the ego. It's a physical week, so that's why we talk about the tension in the body and understanding what's going on in the physical body. Because it's not just about just what's going on in our minds, it's also how it affects and what's left within our bodies.
Yes. Talking earlier about just how we do react, and when we think about things that bother us or things that stress us out, a person that stresses us out or a situation at work, just take a moment and think about that for a second. Take some breaths and just see where it forces you to tense up and where it forces you to become rigid in areas where you don't even know you're doing it.
And particularly if you live with family members or live with people that are in and out, you might feel a sense of, you hear the garage door, or and do you breathe, or do you tense up and then you're ready to put on your armor? And so a lot of times when we just breathe, we can go like, what?
And even taking that further, if it's a sound you get used to, you might not even hear it.
Yes.
So people might come and go and you don't know they did because you are so used to the sound that it doesn't register.
Yeah, because I had to get used to my cat. I mean, he would jump. He lands pretty heavily. Other times he doesn't. But I had to get used to, is he okay, kind of a thing.
Keeps you guessing.
Yes. Well, he is a cat after all.
I mean, our animals, it's a really good space where ignorance comes into play. There are so many things that we don't know and that we decide for our animals, right down to what their personality and demeanor is. We see some of it, but we make up a lot of it too. Mm-hmm. My husband and I have a different way of projecting or personifying our dog. And for him, the dog is kind of a young toddler. Always. And for me, the dog's a little more wise and sage. And it's a different dog when we're just talking to him. So I'm sure he's confused.
It's a good thing when you let your animals be, your call and response. You're the preacher, you're the one that's putting out the energy. And then the animal's kind of the reflective choir, giving I guess that works. Yeah, the reflective choir in a way. Give me your
sort
energy
of,
back.
but
yeah.
you don't know what they're.
You don't know what they're singing. No, you don't. No.
So a lot is left to our imagination and to our ideas of what it looks like.
Yeah.
Animals are just a place where we all have to take a step back and realize that we don't know. We collectively know that we don't know.
Yes.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's a cool space for humanity to sit. There are certain areas where we all will accept that we don't know something. But for the most part, we all have a lot of things that we scramble to try to know or wish that we knew or get so frustrated when we don't know them. And it's, I really like to spend a lot of time in Ignorance Week paying attention to those moments and what my body does. Because I would never have realized this, but every time I don't know the answer to something that I feel like I should know the answer to, I stop breathing. I mean, I start again, but it's if I stop breathing, all of a sudden the answer is going to come to me. The reality is probably if I breathe harder, the answer would come to me.
Mm-hmm. Or just consciously, just knowing that you do stop, you don't pause as long anymore, do you?
I just noticed myself doing it.
Okay, okay.
But I think I'm less apt to feel that way than I used to be because I recognize it. And I see it so clearly, and I'm open to learning in ways that I wasn't when I was a little bit younger. or feeling like I needed to have all of the answers. The
But-
more that I let go of needing to know all of the answers because I can't, just the more free I feel every single day.
Yep. And the more that you're able to, like you have a question about how do we approach things we don't know. And I can remember, again, if we're talking about mentors, I can remember being, shamed if I didn't know something, right? Well, you should know that. And so it's about releasing that shame, or even the guilt that you put on yourself for not knowing. Because I used to think I had to have all the books, I had to have everything memorized. And it's like, I don't.
And how could you?
Yes, I don't know. Let me look it up, And so,
everybody's interpretation is different. Everybody's piece is different, especially if it's, take something like astrology.
Yeah.
There's so much to know, and then there are so many different opinions. You can get several slightly different interpretations on the same subject. So what we really wind up doing is putting together a whole bunch of symbols that mean something to us. And I think that's true of anything in the world. We get our perceptions of what the thing is and how it works. And I would say with most every subject in the world, there's a perspective that's just slightly different. When we move into just anything, how to prepare barbecue,
or gumbo,
how to make chicken.
because I'm kind of hungry right now too. That might be part of it. But then we have confirmation bias that we sometimes tell ourselves certain things based on what we want to think we know, right? And so there's ignorance. But as soon as I think once we apply some compassion and understand that our ignorance of someone else can bring the conflict, which is another physical week, which can keep us out of not accepting or allowing our wholeness, which is yet another physical week, then and holding the tension in the body, because how often do we get tense in conflict?
Yes.
And so just being able to admit to someone, I didn't know you would react that way, or I had no clue, can just be the beginning of, is that the detangling? Getting rid of the emotional?
It's the beginning of the detangling, and a lot of times the reaction that comes back is, well, you should have known.
But wouldn't that just be just the essential ego response?
The
You
essential
should,
ego.
you should have known.
I think it's a response that doesn't allow another person's perspective.
Yeah.
It really puts an expectation there that we want, and our feelings get hurt, and we don't want to see another person as not thinking about us the way we perceive that we would think about them in the same situation. I mean, we really get into a lot of shoulds and the way that things need to be and what people have to do, and it's all opinion. And I personally feel like everyone should be doing our raw material. Does that mean everyone's going to rush out and do it? No. And just the fact that I think it will create some opposition to the practice itself already has. This is how the world works with ignorance. The things that make us tense, afraid, for whatever reason, trip us up and make us feel extra separate. Those things get in the way of us clearing the space that allows us to see connections and to feel okay, allowing the space for information to come to us, not scrambling through our brain. Why didn't I know the answer? Why didn't I have that? Why didn't I say the right thing? Or why didn't you do what you were supposed to do? Just letting the answer of here's what happened be enough. Letting a person catch up, letting a person have breathing room around something that you perceive as a mistake. They might not.
So when you talk about allowing others the space to be exactly who they are, then that has something to do with what do we feed our minds about this person, the week before, in terms of, it's a mental week. So how do we feed ourselves the negative expectations that they're somehow not going to measure up? They're not going to listen to us. They don't care enough about us. But if we feed more of the wholeness, more of how, they have their own stuff that they're focusing on, or it can be any number of actual reasons, then we're more likely to allow that space to say, hey, well, I would have liked for them to have known, or you also have here where someone asked me today, they said something and then they said, please after it. And I said, that's okay. And she said, well, I meant to say please in the beginning. And I said, no, if I'm listening through my heart, then I'm feeling more your energy than the actual words, because I was willing to it didn't matter how she said.
I can accept it either way.
Yeah. It's just like, come on, the end result is more important in this instance. So,
and understanding sentiment over parsing words.
Primarily, I'm not a practicing attorney. I just didn't want to live in that kind of ego headspace. It just
where you're actually looking for the loophole that makes it okay to do the thing that's going to create harm.
Yes, or exacerbating, making the conflict worse for your own self-interest or your client's self-interest, and not considering, all parties that are involved. Because, well, that's how you're taught, oppositionally. So, yeah.
One thing that I like to think about is that old Maya Angelou quote, if you know better, you do better. And it gets twisted around a little bit because she was actually talking about herself, that when she knows something better, then she does it better. But I like to turn it into a verb period. So if you are a person who knows better in a situation, then you just do what you know is the right thing to do, rather than watching a person do something contrary to that and then joining them because, well, if you're going to do that, so am I. It's that going down a level when you do know better brings everything to a space of tangled triggers. It doesn't allow the space to clear and to open it up. And when you see a person struggling to know better, even if you feel like they should, allowing that space for them to kind of move around in there and open themselves up gives you both breathing room. Gives everybody some space to not feel shamed or stupid or dumb or any of the things that we tend to feel when someone tells us what we should have known or what we should have done, even if we should have.
Mm-hmm. And the first thing that a lot of times we do when we feel shame is we hang our heads down. Now we show
or feel like we should have. Sorry.
Yeah. We go into this kind of even the body kind of goes into a resignation space. And if you're doing this, then you're not breathing into the heart. You're not breathing the space into the body because
you're not breathing and you're not heart. I mean, you've got two layers now in front of an open breathing heart, and closing off two walls sets it to a space where you're certainly not going to reach out to the other person, and they're probably not inclined to reach out to you because you're not giving them the reaction that would make them feel satisfied. And quite honestly, I'm not sure what that reaction is. I feel like when you watch a person be shamed over something and then you want a different reaction from them, what is the reaction that you're actually looking for? Because I think what happens, it's an actual reaction to watching someone feel shame and feeling bad for helping create it. I mean, I think there's a whole tangle of what happens with our feelings that we're not even aware of. So ignorance, it's just everywhere you look. I mean, I just watched a bird fly outside the window. I'm not sure what kind of bird it was. I don't know what size it was. I don't know where its nest is. I don't know what it eats. I don't know if it stays here all winter. Mm-hmm. And it's a bird that's in my backyard. Yeah, I can go find out all of those things, especially if I get an eye on it. Point being, there is always so much that we don't know and to learn, and someone else has that knowledge. Mm-hmm. So we all sit with our own piece of knowledge. What's that question that we ask about ignorance?
Oh, out of all the knowledge there is to know, what percentage of it do you think or believe you know? All of the knowledge. Everything there is to know. Mine starts with a point and then several zeros.
Gets smaller and smaller.
Every time we go through this. Yes, it goes through this. But it leaves such an open space for exchange of information and exchange of knowledge. Because what importance do you place on knowledge? And then how do you see knowledge different, intellectual knowledge different from, say, emotional intelligence? Because you could easily say you should have known that we treat people this way. But if you don't breathe and give allowances and actually do some communication, it's just creating more debris and more conflict, really.
If you watch a person in reaction of any kind, it's very difficult to understand what the basis of the issue is. And when you watch a reaction to a reaction to a reaction to a reaction, now what you're seeing isn't whether somebody's right or wrong, or more right or more wrong. What you're seeing is a lack of communication that probably started from ignorance. And without knowing where every other person's head is, and we don't, a lot of times we don't even really know
where our own head is.
We're not aware of our own emotions enough to know what we're bringing to a situation that might not be present if we weren't deep down sad or mad about something else. Cultivating that space where we have an inner monitor, where we know what we're feeling, where we know, okay, I am really tired, so I'm probably not going to be receptive to people asking me to do things. And I'm probably not going to be as willing to do them as I would be if I were not tired. My value right now is to get some sleep. So whatever obligations I have, I'm going to go make sure I'm trying to get some sleep. In the meantime, anyone who asks me to do something might feel slighted, might feel like I don't want to hang out with them, might feel like there's something else going on. And if I say it's because I'm tired, that doesn't feel like a good excuse to not hang out with someone, does it? Like you're just tired, like you can't rally to hang out with me? These are the spaces where we really have to allow what somebody else says about themselves to be the truth.
And when we do that, in an ideal world, a mental week, in an ideal and value-oriented world, you can feel a lot of times the other person giving that back to you. It just happened to me with my younger sister. I was exhausted yesterday evening and she could tell, but I knew it was important that I answered the phone. And in that, she heard my voice and said, hey, we can talk a little bit later because you sound tired. So, but 3-4 years ago, I don't think that would have gone off like that. So this works. This really works.
It really does work. Yeah, Ignorance Week is so cool because it really makes us breathe in all of the spaces that would normally make us tense. So instead of getting more and more bothered by the way the world is looking, we're getting more and more relaxed with this practice, being our own center anywhere, because it's just easy to be in that space. It's easy to be within all of the things that make us ourselves, and then hold that with enough open heart to be that for other people. It's that simple, right?
Being our own center anywhere.
It's beautiful.
Yep. She just riffed on finding your center wherever you are. So even in that, didn't have the knowledge that was going to drop out of her mouth. So there you have it. That once you realize that there really is no fixed knowing of everything ever, that's just,
at least not in this human body. I'm not ruling it out.
Or in some other realm. Yeah. But
for what we can perceive, we're having to wade through a lot of shit.
Mierda. Yeah.
Or dirt. Call it dirt. It's roots of dirt.
Roots of dirt. Yeah. And I don't know how to say dirt in Spanish.
Just muddy in the way.
But that's the point that, oh God, I just did it anyway. I don't know how to say it. But it's important that, and the more that you play with it, sort of like the values and ideals playground, more that you play in what you don't know, the more you have a detachment about it, and you can make fun of it yourself.
And you become curious.
Yes. Yeah. I don't have any more that I know to say. I love these puns. I can't help it. Don't want to either. So, but catch us on Instagram, Ourrawmaterial.com. www.ourrawmaterial.com is our website, and the YouTube channel is the same. And remember, the question in the beginning, if you want to put it into our comment section, is, where are you holding tension in your body? Take a deep breath and scan the body. You'll be amazed at how scanning the body while you take a couple deep breaths just can make all the difference in the present moment. We appreciate you.
We'll be back next week for Emotion Week.